Hello, everyone. It's Daniel Orion. Maybe you haven't heard from me for a little while. There are some good reasons why I've been absent. There are also a lot of not very good reasons why I've been absent for a while. But today I want to talk about one of those good reasons, and that is that I was at a BugGuide gathering. That's right, I heard about BugGuide.net as well as the gathering from an entomology friend of mine from work, and I figured it would be a really good opportunity to get out of my comfort zone and go meet some real entomologists and see what entomologists do out in the field. The purpose of the gathering was that we were going to go to a county up in Idaho, northern Idaho, where there hadn't been a lot of documented specimens, according to BugGuide. So we were basically going to survey some of the land, which was actually on a reserve, and yeah, it was basically that. Just a lot of people who were interested in bugs getting together, and I thought, man, what a really good opportunity this would be to introduce people to BugGuide as a whole, because I really did need some of these experts to explain to me exactly how BugGuide works, partially because, I don't know, it's a little bit intimidating. It's not the most user-friendly interface, at least on the surface. Once you get into it, it is a pretty darn good resource. But before I attended this gathering, I really did not I hadn't used BugGuide before, despite this being kind of my cup of tea when it comes to identifying different specimens, spiders in particular. But BugGuide deals with all arthropods, which is kind of like what my channel does anyway. And so this is going to be really cool. I learned a lot by going out there and surveying the land. We were in a county called Benawa and also Kootenai, up in northern Idaho, right next to Washington. And we were staying at the Coeur d'Alene Hotel, Resort, and Casino. And we stopped by a number of places, got a lot of really good pictures, and it was great. It was really great meeting all of these people and having them show me basically how to do bug people things. We were a really good group, and I have posted since a lot of cool things on BugGuide here. Here on the calendar, the last event was the BugGuide gathering, and you can actually see the pictures that this group took. And like I was trying to say before, my experience with BugGuide had been I was so lost with using it that I actually tried to look up if there were any guides to how to interact with this site a little better, and I didn't really find much. But so hopefully this fills a niche out there if you guys wanted to try out BugGuide but weren't exactly sure how everything went. Let's walk through it. Let's see if I can make a post. I have very few pictures left that I wanted to upload. Some of them are mine. For example, this leaf cutter bee right here is one of mine. And I correctly identified that it was in fact a leaf cutter bee from the family Megachilidae. And someone confirmed that later over here. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit. First, BugGuide is this really, really cool resource that has to do with all arthropods, right? So here, this is the part that I came to first and might be the most useful to people. It's an ID request. You submit a picture, you fill in the things that you might need, that people might need to know about where you found it, what it was doing, and then hopefully you'll receive an answer. So I'm going to stop real quick now that I realize that I'm not logged in. I'm going to go ahead and do that so that I can show you what some of that looks like. All right, well, that was easy. So when you submit an image, it goes here, and they are in reverse chronological order, of course. The newest push the not-so-newest off to the side, and you can click on any of these images to get a closer look. You do want really, really good quality pictures usually, because you know how these arthropods are. There are so many of them, and sometimes the difference between one species and another species is just the slightest thing. So here's basically the information that you as a poster would be providing if you're looking for an ID request. You would post the image, write a title, which is usually what you think it is, say what county you found it in, potentially the state, country. BugGuide is reserved for just Canada and the United States, and that's because we don't want to, the BugGuide people, they don't want to stretch out to all over the world when they really are only specialists from North America here. So they say they don't want to just provide mediocre information for global species and would rather provide really good and accurate information for this part of the world, which I think I really vibe with. And of course the date is going to be very important. So if you have a picture saved up from a while ago of creatures you want identified, do remember that date. So for example, if I go to my images here, second page, these are all mostly going to be animals from the BugGuide gathering in Idaho, but the very first one is this fellow that I met at work, and it was a running crab spider, and it was the first thing I posted because I wanted to know the species, and I haven't yet received a response here, other than it, someone corrected the way that I plugged in the data, because it's I don't know if it's complicated or I'm just not as smart as I think I am. But anyway, I tried my best to provide ample details, and there might be some good reasons actually why people can't provide a response here. First, I think I am correct that it's in the Philodromus genus, but it's a little bit harder to narrow it from there. I really dislike this family when it comes down to actually narrowing it down to the exact species. It's so much easier for so many of the other spiders that live around here. But one of the things that I didn't do was provide several pictures from different angles, and that's something that is really, really encouraged. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, in this video right here, submit one of my final images from the BugGuide gathering so that you guys see exactly what the process looks like. Alright, so before we begin, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Marcia Morris, to John Mason, and to John Schneider for really taking the time to walk me through the steps of how to use BugGuide, how they've used BugGuide, and really make me feel more confident about the whole process as a whole. I wouldn't be able to make this video without them, and so without further ado, let me show you what I'm trying to do today. And that is, if I open up my files here, go to my BugGuide folder, I want to post images of this individual and hopefully ask for an ID request of the exact species. I have a pretty good idea as to the ballpark of where the spider is found, and shout out to you if you can already tell me the name of the family the spider belongs to. But the idea is to post it on BugGuide, and especially so that it shows up on the bug portion of the gathering page that we were looking at earlier. That'd be really nice. Alright, so we are going to go to... Yeah, this is fine. Here, an ID request. I can, I believe, try and upload it directly to the guide, which looks like this, but I was told by some of my mentors that it's better to be safe than sorry and just post something as an ID request, even if you're pretty sure what it is, and someone will just move it into the right folder if they agree with you. So one of the things, if you're trying to post for an ID request, is a lot of times people will have a pretty good idea of what they're looking at. For example, let me click on this picture of the moth, and someone says, is this Zestia oblata? That's way better than what I would have guessed. I've got to confess, I'm not a big Lepidopteran person. But what about, let's flip to page 2. This beetle. What do people think about this one? And they think, oh, this person just says beetle. Coyote Hills tells you, of course, the date and the exact place that it was found. All right. And then someone else commented, and with a pretty precise, all the way down to species. That's awesome. So you don't need to know too much, but the more you know, I don't know, I guess the cooler you look. So our picture, it looked like this, and we wanted to try and figure out what it was. So it's a spider, right? You see the prosoma and the opistosoma, the two body parts, and then it has 8 legs, and it has these little pedipalps over here. And my image app is like bugging out, so my cursor is the little loading ball. Anyway, so let's go over to guide and see how far we can narrow it down. Just so, this is going to transform into like a dual purpose thing. Like if you don't want to post your image, you can also just try and look it up. And this is how you would do it. So there are a lot of sections in the guide here. Like right now we're on browse, but there's also taxonomy, info, images, links, books, data, etc., etc. So I want to narrow it down, and I know that spiders are chelicerates. They're in this huge family over here. But if you don't know, you can try either like finding the spider on the picture here. Like for example, if I don't recognize, okay, this is a fantasy land over here where someone doesn't recognize what an arachnid is. But let's say for the purpose of this example, we don't know what an arachnid is. We don't know what a horseshoe crab is. We don't know what sea spiders are. But you look here and you see like, oh, that I think that's a spider. So we're gonna go over here. And if you're wrong and you don't see spiders, you just hit backspace and try again. But of course, that was a really terrible example because the others were very clearly not the sections we were looking for. What did we have? We had this crab's Yeah. Okay, so this is an araneomorph. It has small pedipalps. Oh, it just disappeared. Okay, well, I'll get it back later. And so I know that it's going to be in this section, but of course, you might have to do some trial and error here. Let me see if I can refresh the recording at this moment just so that my image stops bugging out, and I'll save this moment. Alright, apologies. So, like I was saying, this is an araneomorph spider, which means it's not a mygalomorph. Mygalomorphs are like tarantulas and trapdoor spiders, the things with the that are generally larger, they're terrestrial, they live underground, they have front-facing chelicerae, they usually have bigger pedipalps. We're looking here. This is where most spiders are going to be found, they're true spiders. And here... So we're at an infraorder. Oh goodness, what in the world is this? So this is one of the areas where I think we're looking at like a super family. And so even I don't recognize a lot of these names, but this is where, like I said, it's going to become a lot easier if you just pay attention to what things are. Like this is a cellar spider, Loxosceles. Oh, this is like the six-eyed clade of all the spiders with 6 eyes. And I see a jumper over here. I see an orb weaver. I think this looks a lot closer to what I want to get to. And finally, we narrow it down to spiders. See, Agalenidae, the funnel weavers. This is something I recognize. Down here, Araneidae, very, very large order of spiders. I'm sorry, family of spiders. And so you go down the list. Here, we don't see the animal that we were looking for, so we continue down the list. I'm going to save us some trouble because I know that Tomicidae, which is the family that we're looking for, is found very near the end of the alphabet. And here it is. We have now arrived at the section of the animals that look like the animal in our picture. So let's take a look at our animal one more time. And I have the image opened in the Paint app now because the photos was being kind of obnoxious right now. So as you can see, it looks very similar to a lot of the animals right here in the family Tomicidae, which says crab spiders. That is because they're kind of flat-like. They have 2 long legs in the front and then 2 shorter legs in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and click family Tomicidae crab spiders. And here, this is around the part where I need a little bit of help, because there are an awful lot of genera here. There are 4 pages worth. I was under the impression that this guy, some crab spiders are called flower crab spiders, specifically in the genus Misumessus and Missulena. Oh goodness, there's a bunch of them. Misumenops, Misumenoides, Misumena, Mecaphisa. And you can see the general characteristics of these are they're going to be like white or yellow, sometimes pink. They're really, really good at camouflaging in flowers. This guy's really funky. Wow. All right. But the fella on my picture doesn't look super duper colorful. I think there are a lot of crab spiders that also like to camouflage in tree bark or grass. In fact, the very first genus, Bassaniana, they're called bark crab spiders, colloquially. I don't think I'm one of these, but honestly, I'm not entirely sure. And I'm not playing anymore. I legitimately don't know the species of this crab spider, or even its genus. This doesn't look too far off, but that's okay. I only want to narrow it down as far as I can. So if you were just looking for what type of spider this was, so you can tell your friend you took a picture of a crab spider, then you don't need to go this far. We've already accomplished what we needed to do. The genus that I had my eye on since the beginning is one called Cysticus with an X, so it's basically at the very end. And I wanted to see if my specimen matched any individuals here. And of course there are variations in spiders, so the same species isn't going to look exactly the same, every single time, which makes things pretty tricky. But you see what I'm doing is I'm basically just matching which one looks pretty similar. So Octificus right here, that doesn't look too bad. Now, how do I cross this off the list or keep it as a potential suspect? Oh, look at this image right here. Pretty similar looking individuals. Of course, when you take pictures of arthropods like this, especially those that you're not super familiar with, it's really important to try and get as many different shots from different angles as you can. And you can see my spider was in a container, which made this a lot easier. And the reason is because you never know what tiny little factor is going to lead to someone being able to identify the exact species or not. So this one here was found in Minnesota. That's not where I was, but that doesn't mean the range doesn't expand into northern Idaho. Where would I go to find that? Let us switch from the Browse tab over here over to the one that says Info. I wonder if it's here. Range Mexico to Georgia, northward to central US and Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan is in Canada, right? This is really testing my geography skills. So if that's the case, yeah. It is potentially within that range. And of course I do have a field guide I could turn to, but I'm trying to show what you could do with just BugGuide alone. I will definitely be looking at that field guide and checking out if Octificus's range is consistent with northern Idaho, or maybe not. But if you guys can see down at the bottom here, there's like 8 pages worth of just Xysticus crab spiders. So I could do a lot of digging here, but I don't really want to. I just want to post this image. So let's say that we think it's Xysticus. I'm not 100% sure, but that is why I'm posting it in ID request, because I don't know, right? So even though this is going to go over here, the side, photos of insects from the bug guide gathering, this is where I want it to go. I don't have to post it directly here, because there's going to be a little tag that is going to help us add it. So let's go back to our guide and go back to ID request, and we are going to add image right over here above where all the images are. And that's going to take us to this page. And this one was super scary when I first started using BugGuide. But we will walk through it together, and we're going to see exactly what is super duper important and what is a little bit less important. All right, the 26th of July. I was spot on. So real quick, what have we gotten so far? We have the title, we have the state, which is Idaho, the county, which is Benoit. The location was Palouse Prairie. Now we have the date. Now the size I am actually purposely going to leave blank. I was taught that this is what you're supposed to do unless you know the exact size, the exact measurements, like you took out a ruler and everything. And because I'm not that sure, I won't bother with it. The people at BugGuide that are working on these IDs, they would very much rather not have information than have wrong information, if that makes sense. Finally, there's this identifier that is usually going to be left blank. However, here, there is an identifier that is going to make our image show up in the page that has the compilation of insects from the gathering. And that was gathering underscore 2024. Of course, you won't be using this unless you were at the gathering, in which case, hi, thanks for checking out my video. Anyway, the next section is where you choose the image file to upload. I'm going to save that one for last real quick. Any remarks, anything interesting we noticed about it? I don't think so. And then here, you can check whether you know it was male, female, an adult, or an immature individual. I am not 100% certain on our crab spider. I would like to think that it was an adult female, but of course I'm not sure. Spiders are hemimetabolists, so that means they don't go through larval and pupal stages. They just kind of look like spiders, and then they turn into bigger spiders with each molt, right? So I can't be 100% certain. I'm just going to do myself a favor and leave that blank. Copyright owner, this is only something you would use if you did not take the picture. So, speaking of which, let's try and upload that image. Perfect. Okay, so this is the one I probably want right here. All right, and you see it's uploaded right here under the very creative name Untitled 3. Whoops. And then we'll see if we run into a problem. I can preview it. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. And this is what it looks like on the preview. That is beautiful. We've got our title, Xysticus species, question mark. Hopefully someone will confirm that soon. Location, there's the county, there's the state, there's the country, there's the date. All looks good to me. And I am going to hit submit. Ta-da! We have submitted the image. Now the next step, because sometimes you really do want to submit different angles of the same animal, just in case someone can work better with one angle rather than another. And so let's see if I can go over to our BugGuide pictures. I think I wanted to use this one because it has a good shot of the eyes, but when it comes to the images that you're uploading, you really want almost nothing but bug. That's how I always remember it. You don't want all of this unnecessary space around it, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to crop our little untitled JPEG right here until it's just about only the spider that's showing up. Let's see if we can save here. And of course, unfortunately, this isn't the highest quality image, but it does at least show the arrangement of the eye pattern, in case that does change from species to species. Generally, as far as spiders are concerned, the eye pattern doesn't change within the family, but just in case. Tomicity is a little bit weird when it comes to things like that. So I'm going to go to your images, my images, here, and we should see that the latest image is this crab spider. So I mentioned that you can only add one image per submission, but you can actually add other submissions and kind of staple them together in a way. So the way you do that is you go to your previous post, you go to add image, and then it brings up all of this stuff again, and you could just submit something secondarily. Now, it was brought to my attention by one of the members of the gathering that I don't need to add the identifier for every image. As long as there is one image of an individual bug, that's good enough for the page. I don't have to flood it with like 4 pictures of the same bee. And fair enough, I will not be doing that. And so everything else is already filled in, other than the things that I had left blank in the other post. So I'm going to go ahead and choose File, and send in our newly edited untitled JPEG. We're going to go ahead and preview it. Looks good to me, and we will hit Submit. So now, what will happen is, if we go back to my images and check out our spider, now we can scroll down and see the second image that we attached to it, and we can flip back and forth between the two of them. So we have multiple angles. You guys see how that works? So if I were like a spider noob, and I had no idea what people need to look at from the spider, I have like this front view and this kind of bird's eye view, and hopefully between the two of them, someone will be able to tell me exactly what spider this is, or at least pretty close to it. And because I added the little tag, this image should be showing up on Insects of the BugGuide Gathering, although sometimes it does take a little while to load, so apparently that is the case this time around. So now what we're going to do is we're going to wait a few days and see if we get any responses as to what is the identity of our spider friend. And wouldn't you know it, not even an entire day after that happened, someone did in fact respond that the genus is in fact Cysticus, like we had thought. Sadly, we couldn't narrow it down all the way to the species. I did consult one of my field guides, and unfortunately there are a lot of Cysticus species that look very similar and are all found in a very similar range. So honestly, this is pretty good. Genus is the next closest, most specific ordering that you could get outside of just species, so that wasn't too bad. So I hope this has helped anyone who was confused about how to use BugGuide. Like I said, it's pretty good for some things. It might not be the easiest interface for all types of requests. It depends on what you're doing, but it really is a very, very cool resource. And so I hope that has shown everyone a little bit about how you go about using it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I hope this helps. This has been Daniel Orion, and you've been watching Arachnorion. I will catch you in the next video.